What if I told you Bad Bunny didn't just perform at the Super Bowl? He delivered a silent message that most people completely missed. While over 100 million viewers tuned in expecting fireworks, celebrity cameos, and chart-topping hits, Bad Bunny did something nobody saw coming. He turned the biggest stage in American entertainment into a deeply personal story about identity, struggle, and where he really comes from. No loud political speeches, no obvious protests, just symbolism. From sugarcane fields to power poles, from hidden lyrics to subtle gestures, every moment of his 13-minute set was carefully chosen. And once you understand what it all meant, the performance hits very differently, because this wasn't just a halftime show, it was a history lesson. And it starts in a place most viewers barely noticed. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show wasn't what most people expected, and that's exactly why it stood out. Instead of a typical pop concert built around flashy visuals and sing-alongs, his performance felt more like a cultural statement dressed as a party. From the moment he walked through a set that resembled Puerto Rico's sugarcane fields, the show made it clear this wasn't just entertainment. It was a declaration of identity and pride. For the first time in Super Bowl history, the majority of the performance was delivered in Spanish, a bold choice that broke tradition and immediately centered Latin culture on the world's biggest stage. Bad Bunny brought the sights and sounds of his homeland to life with domino games, street food vendors, and everyday scenes from Puerto Rican life, turning the spectacle into something deeply personal and rooted in real history. This wasn't just about music. It was about telling a story through imagery and sound, about heritage, resilience, and connection. And by doing it in his native language, Bad Bunny transformed a global spectacle into a platform where his culture wasn't translated for the audience. It was celebrated on its own terms. Nothing about this show was random, especially El Apagón, which literally means the blackout. Most halftime performances stick to big energy and big visuals, but when Bad Bunny started climbing up sparking utility poles and singing this song, he wasn't just putting on a spectacle. He was pointing to something real. Those moments on the poles weren't just choreography. They echoed the ongoing power issues that Puerto Rico still faces because of its fragile electrical grid, a problem that became painfully familiar after Hurricane Maria devastated the island's infrastructure. Even years later, blackouts remain a common struggle there, affecting daily life and symbolizing broader challenges the territory has endured. At the same time, El Apagón isn't just about outages, it's about pride and resilience. Fans online pointed out how the song and the visuals blended frustration with joy, using celebration and defiance together instead of choosing one or the other. Some viewers online speculated about whether this part of the show was a direct protest or a political statement, but it's important to be clear that parts of this interpretation are based on what people are saying, not official confirmation. Rumors and readings of symbolism spread fast after the show, but what's undeniable is that the performance made people pay attention to something most had never seen on a stage this big. In that way, El Apagón became more than a song. It became a moment that forced the world to look at a complicated part of Puerto Rican life that rarely gets this kind of spotlight. Just when viewers thought they'd figured out the direction of the show, Bad Bunny shifted gears. And that's when the surprises started rolling in. Out of nowhere, Ricky Martin appeared, delivering a brief but powerful moment that connected two generations of Latin music on the same stage. For longtime fans, it felt symbolic. Ricky represented an earlier wave of Latin artists who broke into the American mainstream. And now Bad Bunny was carrying that torch even further, doing it almost entirely in Spanish. But that was only the beginning. Up on La Casita's porch sat a carefully chosen group of faces: Cardi B, Karol G, Pedro Pascal, Jessica Alba, Young Miko, and more. At first glance, it looked like a celebrity hangout, but fans online quickly started speculating that it was something deeper, a quiet display of Latin unity across music, film, and sports. Different countries, different backgrounds, one shared presence. And Bad Bunny made sure the roots of his sound weren't forgotten either. He dropped quick snippets of classic reggaeton tracks from artists like Daddy Yankee, Don Omar, and Tego Calderon, legends who helped build the genre long before it ruled global charts. None of them were physically there, but their influence was unmistakable. It felt like Bad Bunny was saying, "I didn't get here alone." Even Tonita, a beloved figure from a Puerto Rican social club in Brooklyn, made an appearance, reinforcing the theme of community over celebrity. This wasn't just a lineup of famous guests, it was a statement, a reminder that Latin culture isn't one voice or one country. It's many stories moving together. But then, one quiet moment sent the internet into a frenzy, and everything suddenly got a lot more complicated. Right when the performance seemed to settle into celebration, Bad Bunny introduced a quieter storyline, and that's when things online started spiraling. In the middle of the dancing and music, viewers noticed a proposal, an actual wedding moment, and then a young child watching Bad Bunny's Grammy speech. It felt symbolic, almost cinematic. But within minutes, social media exploded with theories. Some users began claiming the child was connected to a recent immigration controversy, sparking emotional reactions and heated debates. Rumors spread fast, with people trying to decode every detail of the scene. But later reports clarified that the child was simply an actor, not tied to any real-world case. Still, the confusion revealed something important. People were already primed to see politics in everything Bad Bunny did. And it didn't stop there. For some critics, the mere fact that Bad Bunny was chosen as the halftime headliner became a controversy on its own. A right-wing group even organized a competing all-American halftime show, featuring artists they claimed better represented traditional American values. It was framed as unity, but many saw it as exclusion dressed up as patriotism. Bad Bunny never responded directly. No interviews, no clapbacks. He let the performance speak. Same-sex dance pairings stayed in the choreography. Spanish remained the dominant language. The cultural imagery never changed. It was quiet defiance, the kind that doesn't argue, it simply exists. And while critics searched for something to attack, Bad Bunny was already setting up his final message. Because what came next would say more than any speech ever could. As the performance neared its end, Bad Bunny pulled everything together in one final, carefully measured moment. He stepped forward, holding a football printed with the words, "Together, we are America." Then he began naming countries, starting in Chile, moving through Central America, the Caribbean, the United States, and all the way up to Canada. One by one. Slowly, intentionally. Around him, dozens of performers raised flags from the nations he'd just listed, surrounding him in a wave of color and movement. It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It was powerful. Fans online immediately started dissecting the symbolism. Some said it was his way of redefining what America actually means. Others believed it was a subtle response to weeks of criticism about his selection as halftime headliner. Either way, the message landed. Then came two short phrases flashed on screen, some of the only English used during the entire show. "Together we are America." The only thing more powerful than hate is love. No speeches, no explanations, just statements. Bad Bunny draped a flag over his shoulder, spiked the football, and launched into his final song, DTMF, as dancers closed in around him. It felt like a send-off back to private space, away from the noise, away from the arguments. In just 13 minutes, he'd turned the most traditionally American stage in the world into something far bigger. Not a protest, not a party, a declaration. And with that, he disappeared, leaving millions of viewers trying to figure out what they'd just witnessed. Bad Bunny never raised his voice. He didn't lecture the audience. He didn't spell out his intentions. Instead, he told his story through music, movement, and moments that spoke louder than words ever could. What made this halftime show unforgettable wasn't just the visuals or the guest appearances. It was the restraint, the way he chose pride over provocation, culture over controversy, presence over performance. Some people saw a concert, others saw a celebration, but many walked away realizing they'd just watched something much deeper, a quiet redefinition of what belonging looks like on the world's biggest stage. Bad Bunny didn't try to fit into America's idea of entertainment. He expanded it. And maybe that's the real reason this performance hit so differently. Because long after the lights went out and the music faded, one question still hangs in the air. Was this just a halftime show, or the start of a whole new conversation?